Welcome back to The Executive and the Republic, where we explore the lives and legacies of America's early presidents. Today, we're looking at a man who grew up in the shadow of a founding father, but carved his own unique path. John Quincy Adams, the sixth president of the United States. His story is one of diplomatic triumphs, political struggles, and a lifelong fight for justice. Let's dive into the presidency of John Quincy Adams. John Quincy Adams was no stranger to politics. Born in 1767, he was the son of the second U.S. President John Adams and grew up during the American Revolution. By the time he reached adulthood, he had already traveled the world with his father, witnessing the birth of a new nation firsthand. But John Quincy wasn't just a bystander. He was destined to make his own mark. Before becoming president, Adams had one of the most impressive diplomatic careers in American history. He served as a minister to several European countries, negotiated the Treaty of Ghent to end the War of 1812, and was a key architect of the Monroe Doctrine, which declared the Americas off-limits to European colonization. Adams was widely respected as a brilliant statesman, but when he entered the White House, his presidency proved to be much more complicated. The 1824 election that brought John Quincy Adams to power was one of the most controversial in American history. Adams didn't win the popular vote, nor did he win the most electoral votes. His main rival, Andrew Jackson, had done both. But because no candidate won a majority of electoral votes, the decision went to the House of Representatives. With the support of Speaker of the House Henry Clay, Adams was chosen as president in what became known as the corrupt bargain. Why the controversy? Jackson's supporters claimed that Adams and Clay had struck a deal. Adams would become president, and Clay would become Secretary of State. While there was no concrete proof of a corrupt deal, the accusation stuck, and Adams's presidency was tainted by it from the start. Once in office, John Quincy Adams focused on ambitious plans to modernize the country. He believed that the federal government should play a more active role in the nation's development. Adams wanted to build roads, canals, and universities, expand scientific research, and even create a national observatory. He saw America as a rising power that needed to invest in its infrastructure and knowledge base to succeed in the future. But Adams's vision faced stiff opposition. The political landscape was shifting, and many Americans, especially in the South and West, didn't want the federal government to get too involved in their lives. Adams's opponents, led by Andrew Jackson, painted him as an out-of-touch elitist. In Congress, his proposals were blocked or watered down, and the presidency that began with such promise became a frustrating battle of ideas. Despite these challenges, John Quincy Adams remained true to his principles. He refused to play the game of partisan politics, choosing instead to focus on what he believed was best for the country. Unfortunately, this made him a somewhat unpopular president, and in 1828, Andrew Jackson defeated him in a landslide. But here's where John Quincy Adams's story takes an interesting turn. Most former presidents fade into the background after leaving office, but not Adams. He went on to have a second political career that, in many ways, overshadowed his time as president. In 1830, just 2 years after leaving the White House, Adams was elected to the House of Representatives, where he served for nearly 2 decades. It was here that Adams truly found his voice as a champion for human rights. He became one of the most vocal opponents of slavery in Congress, fighting tirelessly to end the gag rule, which prevented the discussion of anti-slavery petitions. Adams's efforts earned him the nickname Old Man Eloquent, and his passionate speeches against slavery and for individual liberty inspired a new generation of abolitionists. In fact, one of his most famous moments came in 1841, when he successfully argued before the Supreme Court in the case of the Amistad, securing the freedom of a group of enslaved Africans who had rebelled against their captors. While his presidency may not have been as successful as he had hoped, John Quincy Adams's post-presidential career cemented his place as a tireless advocate for justice and human rights. His unwavering commitment to the ideals of liberty and equality defined his legacy far beyond his time in the White House. Adams passed away in 1848, but his influence continued to be felt in the years leading up to the Civil War. His fight against slavery set the stage for the abolitionist movement, and his vision for a modern, educated America helped lay the groundwork for the country's future progress. And that's the story of John Quincy Adams, a man whose legacy went far beyond the presidency. If you enjoyed this episode of The Executive and the Republic, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time as we continue to explore the lives of America's early presidents.